All right, so we are on the first week of social studies, and this is going to look very similar to your reading. It's April 16th, so you should be doing the Battle of the Ironclads. This one is kind of hard to read if you printed the PDF off or if you had it mailed from the school. If you go on to Schoology, there's a PDF you can click on. It's right off the History Channel. It's in color, so it's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to read this to you now if you want to just follow along. The Battle of Hampton Roads, also known as the Battle of the Ironclads, occurred on March 9th, 1862, between the USS Monitor and the Merrimac CSS Virginia during the American Civil War, 1861-1865, and was history's first naval battle between the ironclad warships. It was part of a Confederate effort to break the Union blockage of the southern ports, including Norfolk and Richmond, Virginia, that had been imposed at the start of the war. Though the battle itself was inconclusive, it began a new era in the naval warfare. The CSS Virginia was originally the USS Merrimac, a 40-gun frigate launch in 1855. The Merrimac served in the Caribbean and was the flagship of the Pacific Fleet in the late 1850s. And there, when the Civil War began in 1861, and Union sailors sank the ship as the yard was evacuated. 6 weeks later, a Savage Company raised the ship, and the Confederate began rebuilding it. The Confederate covered the ship in heavy armor plating above the waterline, and outfitted in with the powerful guns. Reason christened the Virginia upon its launch in February 1862. It was a formidable vessel. Its commander, Franklin Buchanan, was the only full admiral in the Confederate Navy during the Civil War. On March 8, 1862, it cruised down the Elizabeth River and sunk the USS Cumberland before running aground the USS Congress and setting her on fire off the Hampton Roads in southeastern Virginia. The next day, the USS Monitor steamed into the Chesapeake Bay to protect the rest of the Union's wooden fleet, including the USS Minnesota. The Monitor had set sail only 3 days earlier from Brooklyn under the command of Lieutenant John L. Wardren. Designed by Swedish engineer John Christensen, the vessel had an unusually low profile, rising from the water only 18 inches. The flat iron deck had 20-foot turret rising from the middle of the ship. The turret housed two 11-inch guns. The Monitor had a draft of less than 11 feet, so it could operate into the shallow harbors and rivers of the South. It was a commissioned on February 25, 1862, and arrived at the Chesapeake Bay just in time to engage the Virginia. At dawn on March 9th, Wardren told the Minnesota captain, "I will stand by you the last I can help." The battle between the Virginia and the Monitor began on the morning of March 9th and continued for 4 hours. The ships circled one another, jockeying for position as they fired their guns. However, the cannonballs simply deflected off the iron ships. In the early afternoon, the Virginia pulled back to Norfolk. Neither ship was seriously damaged, but the Monitor effectively ended the short reign of terror that the Confederate ironclad had brought to the Union fleet. Both ships met in the end when the Yankees invaded the James Peninsula 2 months after the Battle of Hampton Roads. The retreating Confederates scalded the Virginia. The Monitor went down in bad weather off Cape Hatteras, Virginia, at the end of the year. In 1973, the wreck of the Monitor was discovered at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Many artifacts from the vessel have since been recovered and are on display at the Mariners Museum in Newport News, Virginia. Though they had short lives, the naval battle between the two ironclads ushered in a new era of naval warfare. By the end of the Civil War, the Confederacy and Union launched over 70 ironclads, signaling the end of wooden warships. So just like your other one, Activity 1, you can complete online. It's writing. Activity 2 and 3 is more hands-on. I think you are coloring, making your own warship, and then you can build one.